What's up, everybody? I'm James. Welcome to Mechanical Mayhem, and welcome back to a Workbench update video for my 1/60th scale classic Timberwolf model. This is something that has been fun to work on, and I really am enjoying the Workbench update part of it because it's keeping me going. It's not that I don't want to work on this, but if you ever worked on something like this, a miniature, a scale model, costuming, whatever, you know that it can sit on your workbench without any progress being made for far longer than you intend if you let it. So doing these updates has admittedly been helping, so that's cool. In any case, here we are. As you can see, some progress has definitely been made, and the workbench is still messy, so that'll be a quest for another time. But here we are with the classic Timberwolf 1/60th scale. And I've done some panel lining and some cleanup, and I've basically got the base where I want it too, so that's pretty cool. If you're wondering the coloration, what we're looking at here, this is Clan Smoke Jaguar, and this is based heavily on the Timberwolf we see in the Mech Commander 1 intro cinematic. It's not a one-to-one correlation, but it's based heavily on that for why I have certain colors where I have them and whatnot. So just as a little bit of point of reference if you're just joining in with this update and haven't checked out the earlier ones. So with that said, like I said in the prior video, I will be doing panel lining, and I did. And I also experimented a bit with Amomig's oil brusher. This is black. These, their tip isn't as fine as a super fine detail tip or anything, but they can do well for weathering, which is what I believe that they are produced for anyway, and they can add some definition and stuff as well if you don't need it to be super fine tip detail. So they're nice. I like them. I'm new to using oil paints like this on top of acrylics and whatnot, so I didn't want to go too much just in case I had a catastrophic interaction of the different paint types, but that didn't seem to happen, which is really cool. I've heard horror stories, but you always hear horror stories, so I wanted to be on the side of caution. In addition to that, I made use of the panel line accent color from Tamiya. I used the black. I didn't use the gray, I used the black. And that works really well because of course it did. It's made to work really well, and Tamiya products are always pretty good. So that was really nice. And my old faithful standby, the Micron pen, the Pigma Micron pens. This brand specifically is what I will use. I don't use anything else. I've used a fine tip Sharpie in the past. It worked, but the Pigma Micron is where it's at for me. They come in different colors and in different size tips. I've used that for years on 40K models for Astartes, Space Marine stuff. Scroll work, like their purity seals and other type of parchment they have on them. You can make fake writing, obviously, by scribbling, and it's a pen, so it's super easy to do. And if you are trying to spell out something with it, you're writing, so it's pretty easy there as well. One thing I will say about the Pigma Micron pens is that you want to have light pressure on paint because it'll dig into the paint a little bit, which doesn't really mess things up, but it can make the ink not come out of the pen, and then you got to scribble pretty intensely on paper and cardboard to get it to kind of just finally flow again. So write lightly, and if you notice that it's not coming out as much, avoid your first instinct to press harder and go to a scrap piece of paper or cardboard and scribble on that until it flows freely, and then go back to the paint. Also, I recommend letting the paint dry for much longer than you would normally because the more it dries and hardens, the easier the pen will be to use on it. But it works great. So, for example, here on this wider part, I used the Tamiya panel liner, and these thin ones are all the Pigma Micron pen, including on the red here. Both work great. I'm more comfortable with the Micron pen, so I use that more. With the Tamiya, you're going to want a Q-tip, cotton tip thing, on standby, maybe a little bit damp, so it's not stringy. We don't want it to be really wet, but just a little bit damp to kind of lick up some of the panel line paint that might get on your raised surfaces just in the act of dipping it in there. Or you can just wait for it to dry and repaint over it carefully. Either way, both products work really great. So I've had a lot of fun. Here I utilize the Tamiya panel liner, and here is the Micron pen. The Micron pen is super clean, like I said. I also use the panel liner from Tamiya to separate the bronze from the red here. Really helps it look much cleaner and have a nice separation look there as well. When particularly I did these pieces, I took a step back after doing both, and I did more Micron pen stuff where I absolutely knew I wanted it, such as in little slits down here on the feet and whatnot. But I took a step back to just assess the situation. So where I'm at right now is more or less where I want to be for my panel lining taste personally. I might go in and do a little bit more, particularly on the toes, because they have hatchets. So you can see that there's a hatch here because I put some of the Micron pen around it. So I think I'll carefully do that on the rest of the toes for both feet. But I don't know how much more I'm going to do. And that's a thing of everybody's tastes are different. So whatever your taste is, go with it. There's no right answer in my opinion that way. For me, my tastes are a bit more subdued at this size. The smaller I tend to do models at, like 40K or classic Battletech size, the more I'll do like more of an extreme highlight or panel lining style stuff, recess wash style stuff, because I think it helps the small models pop better. But on these bigger guys, at least for my taste right now, I'm a bit more less heavy-handed in that stuff. So I'm pretty close to where I'm at in terms of being happy with all the panel lining stuff, but your taste might differ, and by all means let me know if they do. So we're getting close. Pretty cool. So what's the next step? Well, the next step is going to be to do that final cleanup and touch-up work thus far, and then assembly. Now this is going to be removable. This cockpit top piece is always going to be removable. So I'm not going to glue that down. But everything else is going to get connected and glued in certain places for rigidity and support. So the next time you see this, you're going to see this model pretty much almost fully assembled with this piece being off. And I'm hoping to also get some printing going on for clear parts. I've not printed in clear yet. I know the routine of slowing down, and I know, and I checked out and talked with a friend of mine about it. So I have some ideas on what I want to do or how I want to print it. But I do have several clear parts I need to print for the cockpit, both internal and external parts. So that's hopefully going to happen by the time of the next update. I got to play around with that. Hopefully it'll work out well. I would ideally like to leave it clear just for, you know, retro kind of look sakes. But if I can't, because it just looks too weird from the printing and layers process and whatever else, I do have Tamiya clear paints, which are great for tinting clear parts to look like tinted glass. So I'll use one of those. Either way, hopefully all things working out, in the next update you'll see the clear parts ready to be installed, and you'll see the mech mostly assembled. And then it's just a matter of final gluing and then touch up of paint, and we're gonna have ourselves a Timberwolf, which is pretty cool. I've had a lot of fun with this project. It's been a blast. I've learned a lot for this scale, both in printing and in painting and assembly, which is good because I do have a project in mind for after this one. I don't know when I'm going to start it just yet because I haven't done anything for it yet, but I'm thinking it might also involve, on top of doing some 1/60th scale mechs, I think it might also involve, and I haven't done any touch-up or assembly or anything on this guy yet, but this is a 28mm scale elemental you can get from Ironwind Metals. I haven't decided yet if I want to use it as part of that project or not. I need to get a base for it, a hex base for it. But in having it, next to different parts of the mech here, I feel like a 1/60th scale mech with a 28mm elemental, I feel like they are roughly in proportion to each other, kinda. It's hard to tell. Certain games make the elemental feel, I think, small, and they actually are. Other times they feel a little bit too big. So you be the judge and let me know, but it's currently standing right next to that Timberwolf's leg, And I feel like that's where you would kind of expect a battle armor to be for somebody wearing it, right? I think elementals are awesome. And I saw this thing and I'm like, let me pick it up just to see, because it wasn't that expensive. So I did, and that might be the next thing I work on after this classic Timberwolf, if I'm happy with how it looks. And once this model is fully assembled, I think that I'll get a better idea of if I like the scaling between this elemental and the mech, because the other stuff will be in the same scale. So we'll see, but that's my current thought process for now. I want to share that as a little sneak peek, potentially what will be part of my next project. And let me know if you think scale-wise these look appropriate. It's hard to tell right now with just one leg, but you know, you have the arm and stuff here. I think this looks somewhat appropriately scaled, but you can help me be the judge of that and let me know. In any case, been having a lot of fun. We're getting close. I can't wait to get this thing completed, looking cool, and then sit on a shelf for funsies. So thanks so much for stopping by, and until next time, take care.